average person scrolls through 300 feet of media every single day. That's like climbing to the top of the Statue of Liberty with our thumbs daily. Clearly, we have a problem. Luckily, I have a solution for you, but to get the most out of it, you'll want to watch until the end, because that's when I'll give you tips to increase your chances of success. The answer to your problem comes in the form of a journal or a notebook. Hold on, I know what you're thinking. That's putting pen to paper is probably the most boring thing you've thought about in a while. But give me a second here. I want you to take a moment to really think about how it is you feel after hours and hours of doom scrolling on your phone. And now think about how that's your only alternative if you choose to click off the video now and ignore all the tips that I'm about to give you. So now that I've hopefully convinced you, let's dive into how to actually use your journal or your notebook to replace your phone. So the basic idea is to replace your phone with a notebook or a journal anytime you find yourself pulled to use your phone. So if you're watching this video, then that probably means right when you wake up, right before you go to sleep, and anytime during the day where you're bored or have nothing to do. So let's talk about how you can use your journal to replace your phone during these three scenarios in that order. So first up then is in the morning. Instead of using your phone in the morning, which is almost automatic to a lot of us, especially if we have our alarm on our phones, try to journal instead. Some of the forms of journaling that I've tried has been gratitude journaling, for example. And this is actually one of my favorites because not only does it put you immediately in a good mood, but it also sets the tone for the rest of the day. So we've all had those days where we wake up on the wrong side of the bed. And if we don't take the time to shift back into a positive mindset, then our day could get worse and worse and worse. So maybe after getting up on the wrong side of the bed, you stub your toe, then you burn your toast while making breakfast, and you run into traffic while going to work, and so on and so on. Gratitude journaling puts an end to all of that. And another benefit that I've personally found with gratitude journaling is that if you do it long enough, a lot of us might not know, but gratitude is actually a muscle that we have to continually practice and use to make it grow. So if you do gratitude journaling long enough, you'll find that gratitude comes more and more easily to you, and you're a more grateful and positive person in general. So those are some really powerful benefits. But I know that gratitude journaling isn't for everyone. So something else that I've tried and really enjoyed has been dream journaling. And you can do this instead of gratitude journaling or on top of it. And basically what dream journaling is right when you wake up, ideally, write down your dreams in as much detail as you can. And there's a lot of reasons to do this, but personally, the reason I did it was to be able to learn how to lucid dream, which if you don't know what lucid dreaming is, it's basically being able to become aware that you're dreaming. And once that you're aware of the fact that you're dreaming, you're able to then control what you dream about. And that to me is better than anything that social media could ever provide. But if you're not necessarily into that, then dream journaling could also be good to help you connect more with yourself and get to know yourself better, because our dreams are sort of like encrypted messages for us. So they could be trying to get us to process some repressed emotions. They could be trying to transmit certain ideas to us. You never know. You could have your next big breakthrough in one of your dreams. But if you never take the time to write them down in your journal, then that breakthrough will just probably slip through your fingers and you'll have missed an opportunity. So both of those are really great styles of journaling to do, I think, as for me, especially in the morning. But there's all sorts of journaling types that you could look into if these don't work for you. And so as far as making this transition easier for you in the morning, one tip that I ran across in my research was to put your journal where your phone would normally be. The reason this tip is so powerful is because since we've programmed ourselves to wake up, roll over, and reach towards our phone, by putting our journal where our phone normally is, we'll end up grabbing our journal instead. Okay, so now that we have the morning time taken care of, let's talk about what you can do at night instead of using your phone. So here again, we have a couple of options. One that I've personally also used has been writing down my little wins throughout the day. So what I mean by that is taking the time at the end of the day to reflect and think about all the positive things that happened to me in that day, and also all the ways in which I made progress, whether that be in my mental health, physical health, spiritual health, emotional health, and my relationships, my business, so on and so forth. And the reason I love this so much is because it has a lot of the same benefits as gratitude journaling, but also especially for people who might be entrepreneurs or trying to be self-employed, or who are content creators or artists or whatever, who don't have tangible, concrete ways to measure their progress. Doing this allows you to acknowledge just how far you've come. Because I know for me, it's very easy to literally go a year and look back on that year and feel like I haven't progressed at all. But if I take the time to write my little wins down every day, then I'll have concrete evidence of what I did every day to make forward progress. And, I'll take the time to actually feel proud of myself and acknowledge all that I'm doing to create the life that I want to be living. So aside from writing down your little wins, another thing you can do is to write down your to-do list for the next day. And again, there's two reasons why this is really powerful to do. So the first is that by taking the time to write down your to-do list before you go to sleep, then you'll have a clear idea of what it is you did that day and what you need to do the next day to continue to progress. Whereas if you wait to do it the morning after, then it's a lot more likely that because you waited that much longer, that you will no longer have a clear idea of what it is that you need to be, and you'll have lost that connection. So whatever plan you end up making or whatever it is you end up doing will likely be a lot less effective than if you had planned your day the night before. And that leads me into the second benefit, is that by doing this, and I personally have experienced this, it's literally like night and day when I do it versus when I don't, is that by planning your day the night before, you have a lot clearer of an idea of what you need to do the next day as soon as you wake up, which means that you won't spend time procrastinating and you'll get right to work, which is also super helpful because, at least for me, I know that whenever I procrastinate, it's not usually an enjoyable feeling. It's a feeling of anxiety of I know I should be doing something, but I don't know what to do or how to start. So by planning your day out the day before, you're not only not doom scrolling, but you're actually adding to your life instead. Okay, so now we took care of the morning and the nighttime, but what about the rest of the day? Because that's literally the biggest chunk of the day, right? So again, I want to break this down into two segments, which is one, if you normally use your phone mostly as entertainment, and two, if you mostly use it as a tool. So if you mostly use it as entertainment, then one thing you can do is to scribble, doodle, or draw in your journal instead. And the reason this could be so powerful is because a lot of the time, the reason we go on our phone and scroll on social media is because, one, we're either looking to be visually stimulated, or two, we want to be creatively inspired in some way, or three, I guess, some sort of combination of those two. And by using your journal in this way, you'll have those same benefits. You'll be able to express your creativity, and you'll also be visually stimulated. But the difference is that instead of passively going on your phone and consuming content that other people have made and just going one dopamine hit after the next, journaling or doodling in your journal will give you a dopamine hit as well, but it'll be a lot more long lasting and rewarding. And this is also great if you don't love writing, because a lot of us tend to relate journaling with writing, which of course that's mostly how it's used. But we can just as effectively reflect on our day or plan our future by drawing instead of writing. So if you're someone who's more visually and artistically inclined, then this could be really helpful for you just in general, not even just for entertainment. And as far as using your journal as a tool, some of the things you could do is to jot down your ideas that come to you during the day in your journal instead of your phone. Personally, I use my phone to do this because I know myself well enough to know that after taking that note down, I won't be tempted to then go on social media and scroll for hours on end because I've been working on breaking this habit for so long now. So I know that taking notes on my phone isn't going to be a detriment to me. But anyways, if you're someone who still doesn't trust yourself enough to be able to keep away from social media apps, if you were to jot down your notes on your phone, then doing it in your journal instead could be really powerful. Because just by doing this one simple thing, you can shift from just being a consumer all the time, whether that be a consumer of social media or of other people's ideas or of mainstream media or what have you. Instead of just being a consumer all the time, by writing down your ideas, you slowly start to make the shift into becoming a creator. And that can be as simple as just putting your ideas out there on pen to paper, or it can be that you write that idea down and then that turns into your next big project, so on and so forth. But the point here, and really throughout this whole video, is that we want to try to shift from being passive people to being active people. So from being people who just let life happen to them to people who go out and actually create the life they want to live and chase their dreams or whatever else. But the first step is breaking our social media addiction and at least reducing our doom scrolling, because a lot of us think that we don't have the time to chase our dreams and work on that business or whatever else it is that you want, even if it's as simple as spending time doing your hobby. But the reality is that we don't make time because instead of doing those things, we actually choose to spend it on our phones instead, or on other things that don't benefit as much as those things would. Okay, so those were my tips for how to replace your phone with your journal. But like I've said already multiple times, it's really unrealistic and unsustainable to expect yourself to just be able to, from one day to the next, end all your social media addiction and your phone usage. So as a way to thank you for making it this far into the video and as a way to pay it forward, I wanted to give you some tips on to how to actually successfully transition between the two and bridge that gap. So let's get into that. So one thing you can do is to track your screen time manually. And by that, I mean literally taking out your journal and taking 5 seconds or less to jot down your start time and your stop time anytime you go to use your phone, especially if you're going to use it for scrolling on social media. And I know what you're thinking here. You could very easily just go on your screen time app on your phone and see that information there. And it would probably be a lot more accurate than whatever it is you're going to calculate manually, right? But the reason I don't recommend that you do this is because one, by doing it, you're just going to increase your screen time even more and your reliance on your phone even more. And two, because by just passively going on your screen time app and seeing how much time you spent on your phone, that isn't likely to make much of an impact on your desire to want to make a change. I mean, you tell me, you've probably been on your screen time app of multiple times before. How much of an impact did that really make on you? I mean, sure, maybe the first time or two, it made you say, wow, I can't believe I spent that much time on my phone. But obviously, you still have a problem with it, or else you wouldn't be watching this video right now. So clearly going on our screen time app is not enough, which is why I recommend actually writing it down manually. And by that, I mean taking out your journal, opening it up, and before going on social media, writing down your start time. After you do that, which will literally take you 5 seconds, if that, you can go ahead and scroll as much as you want on your social media apps or whatever you use your phone for. But after finishing doing that, what I want you to do is to write your end time on that same journal. And the reason this is so powerful is because, one, again, you're shifting from being passive to active. So you'll have a lot more impact on your awareness, and it'll make you that much more likely to want to make the shift from just consuming all the time to either consuming less or becoming more of a creator or whatever. And also, by taking literally 5 seconds or less before going on social media to write down your start time, you're creating just a little gap where you're able to think about whether you actually want to be on your phone or not. Because a lot of the times, the problem with our phones is that they're impulsive. So by taking 5 seconds to write it down on your journal, it gives you just a big enough opportunity to actually think about whether you actually want to be on your phone or not. If you do, fine, go ahead. I'm not here to tell you again that social media is evil. It's not. It can bring you a lot of good, but we want to be more in control of when we actually use it. So after you do that for about a week or so, try not to make it go on for too long, because you might not actually do what I'm about to tell you if you wait for too long. I want you to sit down and actually look at all the notes you took as to when your start time was and when your stop time was, and do all the math and actually figure out how much time you spent on your phone that week. And then after doing that, I want you to, since you conveniently have your notebook out, I want you to journal as to how you feel about that, how it makes you feel that you were spending that much time on your journal instead of doing something else, whether that be spending time with your friends or family or creating the life that you actually want to be living. Something else that you could do is that instead of writing your start and stop time, or maybe on top of that, you could, before going on social media, write down why it is that you have an urge to be using social media at that time. And so some things that you could be taking notes on are your emotions, like what you're feeling in that moment, your environment, who you're with, what you're doing, what you just did, what you're about to do, so on and so forth. And again, after about a week or so, I want you to go back and review all of the notes that you took on the urges you were feeling on whenever you felt an urge to use social media, and try to identify any patterns throughout your week. By doing this, you'll likely be able to land on what your triggers are, which, if you don't know what triggers are, it's literally when one thing leads to the next. So for example, back to phones and screen time. If you see that 18 out of the 20 times that you ate in the week, you scrolled on social media, then that could mean that eating is a trigger to use your phone. Or also, if 90% of the time when you were bored, you chose to scroll on your phone instead of just looking around or being present, then that can mean that boredom is a trigger for you. But the point is that, again, you'll gain just a little bit more awareness as to your motivations behind using your phone. And once you're able to do that, you'll be a lot less likely to use your phone when you don't actually want to. So those 2 tips alone are super powerful, but if they're still not enough for you, or if maybe even they're still too challenging, then one thing you can try to do is to still consume as much social media as you want. But instead of just scrolling after you're done consuming one piece of content, I want you to take some time to actually reflect on that content. And I don't necessarily mean to write down how you're feeling in the moment or what made you consume that content like I asked you to do in the last tip, but more so I want you to just engage with the content and see if it made you think of any new ideas, if you had any connections to it with content that you've previously consumed or experiences that you've had in your life. Basically, again, just trying to be active consumers instead of passively just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. And again, this is going to be super powerful because this is essentially the foundation of what creativity is. It's consuming something, seeing what you can add to it, making it your own, and then putting it back out into the world. And so once you have that foundation, again, you have the foundation to become a creator and choose the life that you want to be living and actually create it. Okay, so hopefully you can tell that I tried to cram this video with as many tips as I possibly could, both that I personally have discovered through self-experimentation and reflection, or tips that I discovered by reading up on what works for other people. But if you still find the switch hard, then know that it's not your fault, because social media was literally engineered to be addicting. And like I said at the beginning, our phones are addicting because they're so versatile. But even though it's not your fault, it is your responsibility to make the change, because ultimately the only person being affected by your scrolling habits is you. So if even after all the tips that I've given you so far, you're still not really convinced that you could do it, or you still don't even know that you want to do it, then I have one more thing to ask of you, which is basically just to sit down and really think about all the things that you're missing out on because you're choosing to scroll on your phone instead. I know I mentioned this in another part of the video already, but I think it's really a super powerful exercise. And if you're having trouble doing it, then I recently actually made a video exactly on this topic. So I really recommend that you watch it so that you get a little bit more inspiration and motivation to actually make the change. But before you leave, if you found any sort of value at all in this video, then please hit that like button or leave a comment down below letting me know what your thoughts were. I want to be able to make videos that you guys find valuable and that actually help you guys. But the only way that I can do that is that if you guys let me know what you find valuable and helpful first. So I would really appreciate any comments that you guys have or any sort of feedback, even if it's just a like or even a dislike. But as for right now, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.